Hello, hopefully my microphone is on. I'm setting things up and then we're going to dive right into these severe storms across our northern communities. All right, cool. So we do have a couple of storms that we are watching this evening. I'm going to take us to a wide view of the state of Texas so we can get an idea of what we're seeing across the Lone Star State. We're seeing the very tail end of this line of storms that's extending all the way up towards the DFW Metroplex. So if y'all have questions, I'm going to try to do my best to answer them in real time. I've got the live stream going on my own phone, so I can see those questions as they pop up. So I'm going to go back in to our slice of Texas here to the coastal bend. And those storms, they are at the very, very tip of the coastal bend. So I'm actually going to change my radar so it doesn't look quite so messy. I'm going to go back to this one. There we go. That cleared it up just a bit. So you can see there is a lot of lightning with this storm. And that is where the severe thunderstorm warnings are. There's currently 2 of them, and you can tell, I'm gonna try to find my little pointer here. So, oh, that is not an arrow. Let's see. There we go, I found my pointer. So you can see there's one that kind of goes more to the east and then another warning that goes a little bit more southeast. And that southeast one is where this system seems to be following. So I'm going to click on that one to give us an idea of what this is getting warned for. So this storm, it is getting warned for not only wind, but hail as well. So it's getting warned for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts and 2-inch hail. So that is pretty big. I can pull our hail tracker up and show you where exactly that is. I'm going to actually pause it and have it just go to now. So you can see the biggest hail, the hail core, if you will, that is over the north central part of Live Oak County. So it's in between Pawnee and I believe where Whitsett is. Yes, right over there. Here, so I'm zoomed in super far so you can see if you live up in this area where it is in regards to you. So I'm gonna do a little investigation and see if it'll, I think I actually have to take the thunderstorm warning off. It's not letting me investigate the hail. There we go. Yeah, so that is very much so in line with what the Weather Service is warning this storm for. It is for that 2-inch hail and winds up to 70 miles per hour. So with that, let's take a look at those winds. All right, so lots of red and green. So the reds is going to be wind that's moving away from the radar. Green is towards. Not seeing too much at this point in any terms of rotation. Earlier when it was out of our area, you could see way up in the sky, basically the farthest that the radar goes with any reliability. It was a little bit, but right now, not too much. So I'm gonna again pause it and we can take a little sample of what those wind speeds are looking like. So that's 50 miles per hour. I have to take the warning off. The graphic system is a little finicky if you don't do exactly what it wants you to do. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, so 50 miles per hour, 30, 40. So the graphics system, I'm not really seeing anything up to that 70 miles per hour. I'm gonna zoom way in so I can get this blue color right here. That's going to be the strongest wind the radar is picking up. So they're seeing exactly that, right? Oh no. I have to pull the graphics back up. It's very, very touchy. All right, we are going to zoom right back into there. And I'll pull that 70 mile per hour back up. There we go. Okay. All right. So it is seeing this right here, this 1 pixel, that blue color. they took that highest wind speed that they were finding, and that's what they're warning it for. The one right next to it, the lighter blue, that's 60 miles per hour. That being said, this is pretty high up in the atmosphere, so I'm actually going to use an app that I have on my phone and see the height of the radar beam out there, because I'm not totally sure I have an option for that here on the graphics system. So I'm going to keep this on a loop for y'all to watch while I figure out that radar beam height. Okie doke. All right, so I'm using the Corpus Christi radar here. I could also use the San Antonio radar, which is up by New Braunfels where this other little storm is. But because we're closer to the Corpus radar with this storm, that's the one we want to look at to get the best view of this storm. In that one, the beam height, whenever the radar goes out, because the Earth is curved and just the dynamics of the radar, it actually goes up at a slight little angle. And so over distance, that gets pretty high up in the atmosphere. So the radar, what it's actually seeing here, is about 4,500 feet up in the air. So the Weather Service is thinking that some of those really strong winds, that 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts, is kind of coming down to the surface because there's a lot of rain, there's hail with this. So all of that kind of acts to shove down some of that really strong wind, and so they're thinking some of those really strong winds are coming down to the surface as well. So if you're just joining us, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning up for northern Live Oak, northern B counties. That is going to go until 8 o'clock, so here for the next 5 minutes or so, and it's probably going to get reissued here in the next couple of minutes a little bit further out. So this is moving east at 20 miles per hour is what they're saying. I think it's moving a little bit more east-southeast, kind of as the warnings are indicating. So we'll see if they update that direction whenever the newest warning comes out. I'm going to pop down in the comments and see if anybody's had any questions. Okay, I don't see any questions just yet. So I'm going to clear that all off, and we can go back to that hail tracker. So anything above, I believe, the kind of purplish pink color, that would be the 2-inch hail. So you can see that it does look like over the last, we'll say, so it got really strong right before 7:30, just as it was entering our viewing area. And since then, the hail, you can see it went from here, kind of weakened, but then there's been this new pocket of hail just to the southwest of Pawnee. And I'm going to go back to radar. And then this one should be able to, yeah, there we go. So that'll keep the little severe warning at the top for y'all to look at. So something else that's really interesting about this spot, this is kind of me going off on a tangent, is this line right here below Atascosa County up to Live Oak and B County right there. That is San Antonio National Weather Service versus below that line is Corpus Christi. So that's why it looks like there's two different warnings here. It's because there's one warning that goes up in this top area, and then the second warning down here, that's Corpus Christi's warning going out. So we're likely again going to see that getting reissued here in the next couple of minutes. I'm looking in the Weather Service chat and seeing if they're extending. Somebody else is asking that as well, if they're extending the warning, so we'll probably get an answer from them pretty quick here. So there's, again, a lot of lightning, really heavy rain with this, and the threats that are being labeled, again, 2-inch hail, 75 mile per hour wind gusts. So that's what we're looking at, and I can even, I'm going to go back and pull the warning up on my side of things where you'll probably can't see it. Okay, so they had it moving east at 20 miles per hour. That being said, I've been seeing the storm kind of go like this direction. See how it follows that arrow? It's not necessarily east. So I think as we get more, they're sending out storm reports that we've seen 1.25 inch hail near Whitsett, which is what they had initially warned these systems for. And yes, they are going to be extending that warning here pretty soon. So I anticipate them to either change that direction that the storm is going, or they may say it's still going east. But something interesting that we could see, if you watch this, I'm going to play it through a little bit slower. So you can see how initially that top storm, it was moving east. I think that's kind of the direction that was being worked off of per se for the warning. See how it turned to the southeast once it joined up with that second storm south of Campbellton, right there. So that's where that new direction is coming in that I think we're gonna end up seeing. So I am going to start working up a little timeline, if you will. They said it's moving at about 20 miles per hour. So I've got my little 20 miles per hour right here, and I'm only gonna drag it out an hour. So every time you move the graphic, the little cone or the little squall line timer wants to go away. So there's an hour, and let's make sure, yep, it's going that direction. So this is about the timeline that we could be seeing here around the coastal bend. They're still working on getting that newest warning up. This warning will expire in 1 minute. That being said, the thunderstorm not going anywhere. So we're gonna stay here with you. So for Pattis, it'll be there right about now, 8 o'clock, and then heading into the next couple of minutes, it'll continue. See, the warnings just went away. They're gonna come back. All right, they're reissuing a warning here in the next little bit. So if they keep the movement at 20 miles per hour, this has it getting to Beeville right around 9 o'clock. So before there's that new warning, I'm gonna clear it off and we're gonna read what this new one says. So they still have it moving east, but they did take down the winds to 60 mile per hour gusts. So instead of 70, they did bring those winds back down. That being said, 60 mile per hour, that is still severe warned, and they're warning it for golf ball size hail, which I believe is still that 2 inches. So, okay, so golf ball 1.75 inches. So they did take what it was being warned for and they scaled it back just a tiny little bit, but they still have that storm motion moving more to the east. So that being said, I'm gonna make my own little storm track here and we'll see how that compares. So I've seen it going a little bit more to the southeast ever since it was about right here at Campbellton, right around 7 o'clock. You can see how it's moving a little bit more to the southeast than to due east. So it is 8:01. I'm gonna go to 7:31, and this is a little trick that Alan has taught me, Chief Meteorologist Alan Holt, where you make a little marking kind of at the edge of the storm. This is just, the line has an arrowhead on it, but pay no mind to the arrow where it's pointing. And of course, every time you move it, it wants to drop off the face of the earth. So that's 7:30, and then I'm gonna move it forward 30 minutes because usually these warnings work in about 30-minute increments, and that's where it is now. So I'm gonna measure that, and that's gonna tell me over the course of half an hour how far it's moved. About 7 miles forward that way. So it's not moving all that fast. So over the course of an hour, we'll say about 15 miles per hour. Their warning says 20 miles per hour. So I'll estimate it's moving somewhere in between that 15, 20 mile per hour range. And if it were to be moving at 15 miles per hour, let's see how that would change just a little bit. So that would slow it down a little bit to where we're not even getting Beeville on that squall line indicator. So I'm gonna see any questions. Okay, so somebody asked, is it heading towards Beeville? So I'll play the radar loop again. There we go. My radar is a little finicky you make one wrong little click and it wants to go somewhere else. So this is the latest warning. You can see that the San Antonio Weather Service up to pretty much the north of our counties here. Our counties are in that lighter gray color. Pretty much anywhere to the north of that, that is the San Antonio Weather Service area. But from here over into LaSalle and McMullen County down to the south of that, that is the Corpus Christi area that they warn for. So somebody had asked where the warnings were coming from. This warning now, it is coming from the Corpus Christi Weather Service, and they extended it, as I was talking about, in a half-hour increment. So this warning is going to go for another 30 minutes. Still a lot of lightning with this storm and lots of heavy rain too. I'm actually going to take off the lightning so we can see the rain. Yeah, so we've got a lot of those dark reds, the purples. That's the really, really heavy rain. On top of that, we're also going to be dealing with hail within that. So you can tell in the past few minutes, it does look like that storm, it's kicking back up again. So we do have some stronger stuff going on at this point. So you can tell, I'm going to reduce the time that it's going through here just to the last hour so that it's a little easier to point this out. So you can tell how it went from, okay, we have a decent amount of hail, to getting a little bit weaker as it crosses into B County by Pawnee, but now things are kicking back up again. We have this stronger hail signature, and I'm gonna have to take off my warnings again so I can click on it, otherwise it would just give me the warning information. So now this is saying 3-inch hail, but again, the warning itself is only for 1 3/4 inch of hail. So that's what the Weather Service is seeing. So if you are driving along 72 right here, make sure that you're pulling over somewhere, not under an overpass, please do not do that, but pulling off the road somewhere, consider doing that. So let's see, I'm gonna take this back to the last couple of hours, the loop that it is normally set to. There we go. And we are going to go back to the normal radar as well. Cool. There's also up towards Pleasanton a flood advisory. Thankfully, we don't have any of that going on just yet. Checking out comments. A couple people asking if it's going to come to Corpus. It's too soon to tell, in all honesty, if it wants to hold together or not. Whenever I was forecasting earlier this evening, all of our forecast models were showing something like this coming into Live Oak and B counties, but fizzling out before it got anywhere close to the coast. So as of right now, I'm going to say no, but it's also too soon to tell because that thunderstorm, it is picking up again in intensity as we just saw with that hail. So there's still a lot of lightning, a lot of heavy rain and hail with this system. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you're dropping them into the comments because I would love to answer your questions. Otherwise, the rest of the coastal bend, pretty quiet. If you were having thoughts about, what about me, where I live? It's quiet other than up here in our northern 2 counties. So again, this thunderstorm going until 8:30. And out of curiosity, I'm going to take the lightning off. So what I'm doing is I'm just looking at this storm and I'm trying to analyze. I'm just kind of, instead of sitting here in silence staring at the screen, I'm trying to explain what I am looking at for y'all. So I'm just watching this storm and its movement, and it sounds silly, but the colors on the screen, I'm trying to determine whether it's amping up in intensity or going back down. And this to me says it's ramping up in intensity. You can see a lot more purple here on this last radar reading just to the south of Pawnee and across 72. So between Pawnee and Three Rivers, east of Pettis, you can see all of that. I'm gonna pause. All of this really dark red and the purple. That is really, really intense rain. And in this scenario, hail. So I'm gonna double check and make sure that the Weather Service hasn't updated anything just yet. So they're still sticking with that 1.75 inch hail for the warning. So that has not been updated yet. So somebody had asked what the hail size was. It's being warned, sorry if that just messed with the microphone. It's being warned for 1 3/4 inch hail, so golf ball size. That's yay big, I think. I don't golf, I'm sorry. There is a golfer named Kristin Walla, though. It's spelled the exact same way. She went to UT, though. I went to A&M. So, anyway, the golf ball size hail, that is what it's being warned for. However, if we pull up our hail tracker, it actually isn't quite as big anymore. So again, we've been talking about this thunderstorm almost pulsing in intensity. So it got stronger, it got weaker, it got stronger, and now it looks like it's getting a little bit weaker. That being said, I'm going to take the severe warning off and pause it again, and we can zoom in. My mouse works the opposite of the way I think it does. Whenever I try to zoom in, it zooms out. So now this is saying it's back to around 2-inch hail instead of that 3-inch like it was showing here. That, it just moved. Okay, one little bit, there we go. So this was saying just a couple minutes ago 2 to 3-inch hail, and now 2-inch hail. So hopefully this is on the decline, the downtrend of one of those pulses. Excuse me. So this is just moving to the south of Pawnee at this time, and I believe the Weather Service, so they just reissued, and I'm going to read that warning really quick, but it does seem like they re-upped that hail size that they're warning for. So we've been talking about, you know, they originally took down the hail size with the warning from 2 inches to 1 3/4, and now they've bumped it back up to 2.5-inch hail. So that's what they're warning it for. They're still saying it's moving east at 20 miles per hour. So I am going to pull up my tracker, but this is the direction that it's been moving, the hail at least. So you can see overall, it's been a little bit more of a southeasterly direction in the last hour. So I'm going to go somewhere between east and southeast based on their warning and what I'm seeing, because what I'm seeing is just a tiny bit different than what they're seeing, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to outline, ooh, that was ugly. I am going to outline the edge of this hail here, and I'm going to move it outwards by about half an hour. And I'm going to make sure what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling my timeline back and watching the direction it's moving and making sure that my timeline essentially matches up with that direction, because I don't want to give you all wrong information. Yeah, so that looks about right. So these are the times. It's not giving me too many reference points here, but it's saying, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced this, Tuleta at 8:24. So here in the next 15 minutes, then over towards Normanna at 8:30, and Friendship Church, which seems to be southwest of Pattis, northwest of Beeville. Now what I'm going to do instead, I think I can drag this out again. Oh man, I thought I'd be able to re-extend it, so I just have to draw another one. If it were to go directly southeast, how long would it take to get to Beeville? Well, you can see the number on the screen there, I think. I'm double checking real quick that you can see exactly what I'm seeing. It would take about 45 minutes if it were to really just be going southeast to Beeville. Oh my goodness, what did that just do? All right, I'm going to check in on the comments again. I'm going to pull just the normal radar up and the watch and warning, but I don't like that watch and warning. I want this one. There we go. So this one is showing you what it's warned for and the time as well. So while y'all are able to look at that, I'm going to check comments and see if anybody's asked any new questions. Somebody said the hail was pretty bad in Jourdanton, and I'm just double checking that I knew where that was. It's in Atascosa County by Pleasanton, because I've heard of it, I've drove through it before. I just wanted to make sure that I knew where that was. But yes, it was definitely pretty rough. This storm has been holding itself together pretty well. So when it was over in Jordanton, that would have been right around here. So yeah, you can see that storm just clipped that area, and I think that's really interesting to watch on the radar loop. So you can see this storm, it went by Pleasanton, and then you can see it kind of move this way along the edge of Atascosa County by Karnes County, and you can see it. I think the best way to do this is going to be to draw arrows. It's a little tricky though because everything keeps moving. So this kind of did this action. I apologize for this rough diagram, but you can see how these storms, they kind of move together. And when that happens, okay, they don't have that much lightning, and then boom, they come together. Look at all that lightning. So just these two storms essentially slamming together, all of that energy goes upwards, and that helps create all the lightning, and then the updrafts in the storm coming together. That just really boosts the storm development. And I think that's probably why this storm is so strong, is because it was originally two different storms that have come together and continued to move down this way. So again, I apologize for the crude diagram. I am more artistic than that, I swear. So, any new questions? It's raining hard with a lot of lightning in Pettis, I bet. And there is more on the way. A lot of it looks like it's off to your west at this point. It looks like it's just to the south of Pawnee. They're almost getting through it there. This storm, I'm trying to pull up my warning again. There we go. So again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning. It's going to run for about the next 15 minutes, and this was the warning that was extended from the previous one. This storm moving at about 20 miles per hour to the east, southeast, somewhere in between there, and it's packing 60-mile-per-hour winds and 2.5-inch hail. So I'm curious what the winds are looking like now. We haven't investigated that here in a little while. Okay, so this is what we are looking at. So we talked about earlier the different colors if you weren't here with us. I think I have the right tool now. The red is going to be wind that's away from the radar, and green is towards. And so I'm looking at the Corpus Christi radar, and the way that you can determine that is if you look at all these little pixels. I'm not sure if you can see my pencil whenever I'm trying to draw lines. I think I need to use a pointer. So whenever you look at all of these little pixels, these, just the lines of them, you can see how they kind of seem to radiate out in a circle. And if you kind of backtrack it, you'll find the radar. So that's how you can tell if you're ever looking at a radar image, which way it's coming from. So for us, that's important when we're talking about the velocity, because half of velocity is the wind speed, but the other half is direction. So that's your little physics lesson for the evening. So we have the wind moving away and towards the radar. And so what that shows us is that, if I can find my correct thing here, is that this storm, it's got rotation to it. So that would make it what we call a supercell. So you can see that rotation there. And again, I talked about this earlier, so if you missed it, this, at this point, is probably a little bit closer to the radar than when I initially did this. What we are seeing on this image right here, this is 45, at this point maybe a little closer to 4,000 feet up in the air. So this is by no means saying that that is extending all the way to the ground. By no means am I saying that. This is up in the atmosphere in what we would call the mesocyclone. So that is where the storm is just kind of rotating right there. And you can actually see that if I pull up the radar again. Oh man, it took my little couplet away. Pause. There we go. Actually, I know a workaround to that. So I'm going to put my circle back. because I want to keep that circle in the same place. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find, that is ugly. I have way too many radars selected. So while I take a bunch of them off, there we go. So you can see where exactly that rotation is here on the radar. And again, checking comments. If you have any questions, drop them in there. I'm more than happy to answer. If I explained something and it sounded weird, you want me to go back over it, I am more than happy to sit here and teach y'all about the weather. That is literally the best part of my job. So we are seeing this storm. I'm gonna put lightning back on real quick. Yeah, so there's still lots of lightning with this. And lots of heavy rain as well. You can see all of the dark reds, the purple, that's all very heavy rain. You get out a little bit further away from the center of that storm. Excuse me, I keep muting myself so y'all don't have to hear me. And then the further away you get from really the center and kind of the western part of that storm, then the weaker that rain, the lightning, all of that stuff is. So I think it'll keep the, yeah, okay, cool. So the little rotation couplet, the circles spinning around in one place, that's just staying in one place. But if it were to move, it would be tracking with this part of the storm. So, okay, they just sent out another warning, updating it. I'm gonna see if anything has changed. Just glancing at it, I don't think it has. Yeah, it doesn't look like they changed anything with this. It's still the 2.5-inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. I don't know why that stopped. There we go. I lost my train of thought. 60-mile-per-hour winds, 2.5-inch hail, and this warning goes until 8:30. So still a lot of lightning with it. I'm gonna go check back in on the hail. I'm curious if that, yeah, it's actually looking a little bit smaller now. So they kept with the latest warning that they have updated, they kept that 2.5-inch hail tag on it, but again, it does look like it's continuing that kind of pulsing activity where it gets stronger, gets weaker, gets stronger, and now it's getting weaker again. So let's take a peek inside this thing. 1.5 to 1.3. So I think 1.5, whenever the weather service gives out these severe storm warnings, they try to make them easy for people to comprehend. So they're not gonna label really the size of the hail in inches. Whenever you get that warning on your phone, usually it's gonna say quarter size hail, ping pong size hail, golf ball, tennis ball, something that most people have a concept of how big that is. My graphic system here just automatically interprets that. But this 1.2-inch hail, roughly 1.25, that's $half size. That's what this was initially getting warned for when it moved into our area. And that 1.5-inch, I want to say that's ping pong size ball hail. And I actually have a graphic somewhere that's really cool talking about the size of hail. I have, I think, over 400 graphics, so bear with me, and that's just in my content library. It looks like the latest radar scan weekend. It went away. As soon as you click on something just outside of it, it goes away. I need to, I have a lot of presets for, so just don't pay attention to whatever pops up. I'm just trying to get it to something else so I can save it. There we go, okay. Now we can zoom in and it'll stay. Wonderful, okay. I'm still looking for that hail graphic. Okay, I think this one's it, because I have two different hail size graphics and I was trying to make sure. So this is the one that I was talking about, where it shows you the different types of items, things that the Weather Service uses, instead of these increments, these actual inches of hail, this is what they use: pea-size hail, marble or penny, dime-size hail, quarter. So what we're seeing right now, I'm actually going to pull this into here. So it probably to y'all looks like my graphics keep freezing and jumping. It's because I'm moving different things around in my graphic system. So this looks like 1.5 to 1.4. Earlier it said 1.3. So we'll roll with that. Jump forward in the graphic here. And it looks like we are in the 1.5, which, like I said, was ping pong, to quarter. So somewhere in between there. Earlier it started off in between here. That usually they say $half. That's 1.25 inches. That's their reference point in between quarter and ping pong. And then it went up to tennis ball size hail earlier, and then now it's back down to the golf ball size, or it went down to golf ball, and then now they brought it back up to the tennis ball. So we're gonna go back to the hail. I'm gonna check comments, any questions. So a lot of people asking if it's coming to Corpus, when it's coming to Corpus. As of right now, it's not. It would have to hold together, let's see, how many miles? It would have to hold together for another 60 miles. That would be another 3, maybe 4 hours. And the direction it's going is a little bit more, I don't want that arrow, I want this one. It's going a little bit more this way than the blue arrow. So probably not coming to Corpus, y'all. Will Kingsville see any? No. Again, it's going the wrong direction for that. I would say, so many options here. I have to click the right thing. Okay. So we've got the little hail tracker working at the top over there. I'm going to try and draw a line. I think this one will work. I don't want that color. Sorry, I talked to myself a lot. Okay, so I would say, honestly, I-37 is a good point of reference for this. But you could honestly even argue, ooh, I don't like that. I would say kind of like that. I'm very particular with my drawings. So I would say out here, no. No storm. Here in between Mathis and Sinton and this area, possibly. But I think that the most likely area is gonna be up here where I just made that check mark, up towards Beeville, possibly Refugio, because again, the weather service is still saying this is moving in a more easterly direction, which would keep it above up in this area here. So if you're anywhere from I-37 southward, you're probably not going to be seeing any of this rain. So that's what we were talking about with our forecast in our 5 and 6 o'clock news, as well as on our website. Great place to check out the forecast in case you missed it, or over on 3 News Plus if you want to watch it. We also, I think, post them to YouTube, so you got options to see your forecast. We were talking about that just an isolated storm would be possible this evening, coming in from Live Oak and B counties, working essentially southeastward to eastward, somewhere in that range or in that direction, and fizzling out before it got to the coast. So that seems to be playing out here. So I'm gonna go and take my beautiful artwork, I say that sarcastically, off here, and we're gonna zoom back in because I wanna see, is it pulsing up again? Is that activity coming back up? So again, I'm just sitting here. I'm gonna make this a little bit of a shorter loop in terms of the time it covers. And I'm just looking at it to see, is it flaring up with those brighter purples and pinks again? And what I am seeing is that it's covering the hail core, as we call it, just where that hail is concentrated. It seems to be covering a smaller area, and it is on the lighter, if you will, end of this scale here. It's mostly kind of in this bluish range. There's a little bit of that purple, and the purple is going to be, if I can zoom in here, pause things, and now the purple is even gone, but I'm going to go back a minute or two just to look at what size it was saying. So that was 1.5 inch hail. That would be the ping pong size. And the Weather Service reissuing again, or updating rather, this warning. And so this looks like a new warning. And I'm just reading it. Okay. So what I want to see is this. Oh my, that is way too zoomed in. Hello. Okay, there we go. So I'm a little smug right now because they have this coming more to the southeast, as I've been talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and read this in its entirety. So the storm currently about 9 miles northwest of Beeville. It's moving southeast at 25 miles per hour. So as I've been talking about, I've been saying it's been moving a little bit more southeast than east, and they're finally acknowledging that at the Weather Service. That being said, they are also moving the speed forward a little bit. So previously it had been 20 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour. Now it's just a little bit faster. It doesn't seem like all that much, but think about it, you're on the interstate, you tap your gas a little bit more to go around somebody. Those couple extra miles per hour, it does move things along a little bit more quickly. So still for 60 mile per hour winds and $half size hail. So that 1.5 inch hail, that is what we are looking at. So I'm going to leave this here on a loop for just a second, and I'm actually going to make a social media post just so anyone who's not watching this, they are aware of what's going on. So y'all probably can't see anything I'm doing. And then what else? I'm going to pull up a hail tracker so folks can get an idea what that is looking like. And once I'm done with this post, then we can do the timeline again. But real quick, I'm going to make a social media post. I'm going to check comments too here on this Facebook Live. Ooh, somebody said they had 2.5 inch hail in Pawnee. That's what I was being warned for at one point. Okay. I was trying to type 2 inch hail and it came out as 25. That's what the face was for. Okay. Looks like that went through. Okay, cool. I am back with y'all. Someone said they're outside in, I assume, Beeville or B County, and the lightning is amazing. I'm sure it is, but I have to tell you, go inside, please. We don't want you getting struck by lightning. That would not be good. It would not be fun. So, all right. So with this latest timeline update, the Weather Service is moving it at 25 miles per hour to the southeast. So I'm gonna move my radar around right where I want it, because as y'all have seen over the last 30 minutes, if I move it after I draw this, it will disappear. So again, I don't take these out more than an hour, really. Okay, so I'm gonna move this. I'm gonna double check that y'all can still see this. I have to wait for it to pop up on a Facebook Live. There's a little bit of a delay because if I switch the computers here, it may take it all away. Okay, cool. I got it exactly where it should be, because sometimes this computer kind of cuts things off over here and on the bottom. So I just wanted to make sure that this information was not getting cut off and that y'all could still see it. So, Coastal Bend College. Looks like y'all are on deck here in the next, trying to do math, 7 minutes. And then Beeville, a couple minutes after that. Why? I don't know why that just updated, and I know y'all saw it too. Okay, anyway, so Coastal Bend College, which is on the north side of Beeville, it'll be getting to y'all here right around 8:40, which is in the next 5 minutes or so. Beeville, expect that in the next 10 to 15 minutes, and then over into Skidmore here just after the 9 o'clock hour. So again, I don't take these out more than an hour, even though it is nice to know when is it gonna get to Sinton, when is it gonna get to Portland or anything like that. If it's not gonna actually make it and hold together long enough, I don't wanna be giving, as it were, false hope for rain in these areas. So, okay, somebody asked if Refugio would be seeing any of this storm. It is possible. I'm gonna clear this off. Oh, nice. I was worried my thunderstorm warning up there on the top left would go away, but it didn't. So if the storm were to go a little bit more east-southeast, so instead of kind of coming this direction following the, not cone, the polygon, that's the shape here. Some people don't know what a polygon is. It's that orange shape there that the severe warnings are. So this arrow would be going southeast. So that would be following the direction of that warning of the polygon. If it were, instead, here's east. If it were going somewhere kind of in between that, kind of in this general region, say it were to go more east-southeast, then it could maybe clip Refugio. So we're gonna have to watch if it makes more of a eastward jog, but I do think, because it has been on this southeastward track for the last hour and a half or so, I think it'll likely continue that until it fully dissipates. But it is also possible, aside from the, if it were to just move more east-southeast, I told you to pause. There we go. It is possible that y'all do get a little bit of lighter rain from this stuff right here in Refugio. I feel like I just said that really weird, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna recircle that. So just some of this lighter stuff up here, some of that, if all of this is moving to the southeast, that was a very bad arrow. There we go. You could draw the arrow the same way, but just over here. I can't even think of what that's called in geometry, but I'm taken back to freshman year. So you could argue that some of this northeastern, I guess northeastern in relation to the storm, some of this could track down towards Refugio, but I do think the bulk of this storm, of the lightning, the hail, the rain, wind, all of that, I think it's going to be more on track to follow. Ooh, I'm blanking out on what this road name is. I apologize. I think it's 181. Yes, 181. So I do think it's going to more so follow this kind of track right here. So what I'm going to do, because we haven't done it in a little while, go back to the hail, see what that's doing. So I'm not seeing any of the purple or pink on here anymore, which is good. I'm going to pull the warning off. So there we go. Sometimes this computer has a mind of its own, y'all. Okay, so it's 1-inch hail is what this is estimating, and I want to see what the winds are being estimated as. So that is the warning where it currently is. And something to point out too, now that I'm looking at this, we were talking about earlier this area of rotation in the mid and upper, not the upper level, but the mid levels of the atmosphere, relative to where we are. You could see how much brighter those colors were. Can I click on this? I'm trying. This is like chasing a toddler. I was trying to grab a moving arrow. Okay, so you could see how when it was up here, those colors were so much brighter, and that indicates stronger wind. So this is kind of a weird color table or key. Normally you think of it just going one direction. It's getting heavier rain or stronger winds, something like that. But this is a really interesting color table because the further you go away from the middle, whether that's to the left or to the right, the stronger the winds are getting. So just the brighter colors in essence. And that's what we were seeing up here when it was in northern B County and a little bit of Lipo County. But now that it's down here, see how those colors are a lot less vibrant? That indicates that the storm, it's not dying, but it's weakening a little bit. I'm trying to grab this again. There we go. So you can see how it's moved from up here, pretty brightly colored, to down here. So it could be one of two things. It could be, like I said, the storm is weakening a little bit, or as we've been talking about, the radar, it sees up into the atmosphere, and so it's seeing a little bit lower, and maybe the winds just aren't as strong there, which is also entirely possible. But now that it is at a lower elevation, I'm going to take my warning off because I want to see what the winds are looking like. And I'm actually going to zoom way in like I did earlier because I want to see the highest speed that the Weather Service could be seeing. So what I'm looking for right now is just the brightest colors possible, and all I'm seeing is 30 to 35 mile per hour winds, 25, I cannot tell what that said, 21. Up in the red, 25. So I'm gonna double check in the Weather Service chat that they haven't dropped the intensity of this at all. And they haven't sent anything out in the last 15 minutes or so. So we may be getting a new update here pretty soon. So yeah, you can see how it really went from looking like a very robust storm. It had the really bright colors on velocity. And one second, I need to talk to my producer. So y'all can see how this was really, really strong, brightly colored. I'm gonna move it down here. And it just kind of went, not anymore. That's what it said. So it definitely looks like it's weakening. And we're gonna go back over to the hail tracker. So it has a little bit of the darker blue in it again, so it could be pulsing up again, but those winds, that tells me that the storm overall not looking too hot. We're gonna go back to regular radar. And again, if I'm sitting here in silence, it's because I'm analyzing the radar. Obviously, still a lot of lightning with this. If you are outside, I know somebody mentioned that earlier, try to not be outside, try to not be sitting by any windows. I've personally experienced windows breaking during a severe storm. It's It's not fun to sit by those, so please move away from windows. All right. So what I'm looking at now, I took the lightning off. It still has a little bit of this purple color to it just by Normanna. There we go, I've got the right clicker. So kind of this area, this looks to be the heaviest rain and or hail. So I'm gonna actually see, okay, cool, I can put an arrow there. And I'm gonna pull up the hail. It went away, cool. I am disappointed in the radar. What the heck? There we go. Okay, so I put this arrow where we should find the strongest hail. So I'm gonna find, ooh, is it hail or hail track? We're having to play around with, well, it's definitely not that one. It's that one. I have to move things around. Whenever we build these graphics, if you have something sitting on top of something else in the list of things within a graphic, it covers it up totally, so I just had to move some stuff around. So, unfortunately, it's been a minute. So I'm gonna move this arrow now to right there, and if I take the radar off, it's roughly where we find the biggest hail. And that right now looks to be still in that quarter to $half coin to ping pong ball sized hail. So that is what we are still looking at right now. I'm gonna double check that I'm not missing an update from the weather service. They haven't sent anything out in a little while. They were doing the, ooh, sorry if I keep catching on the microphone and like messing with the audio. They were issuing the daily high and low, the climate data. They were doing all that here about 10 minutes ago. So they did issue just now a weather report. It was the B County EMC. They observed 1 inch hail. 1 mile-ish south of Normanna. So roughly, I'm gonna draw it before the radar gets in the way. So right around there, kind of where that arrow is pointing. They had all of this come through. It's currently going through. So right in here, they have observed 1 inch hail. Again, this is getting warned for 1 1/4 inch hail. Yeah, so the last update to the warning was, I think, almost 20 minutes ago. Yeah. So hopefully we get another update soon. I know they are probably pretty busy over there. Real quick, we're gonna take a view at the rest of the coastal bend, just make sure nothing else has popped up there. And yeah, it's pretty quiet. You can see a nice little radar right here. And so you can see how that radar beam, it's going around and literally then around the rest of the coastal bend. If you've never seen it, by the way, the radar is super cool. If you're going out by the airport, just a little tangent here. It's right along 44 as you're driving out there. You can see it. It's like a big white ball on top of some metal scaffolding. Super cool. So, I am interested now. Hang on, I don't like how my radar looks. Just making sure it's actually set to what I want it. I guess so. Yeah, okay. Oh, no, I'm just forgetful. So see how a lot of this lighter green just popped up right now? I was thinking that my, like what I have the minimum for the radar set to, what it would pick up and show had somehow decrease, but it's just because at nighttime, the radar beam, whenever it's super, super humid, it can get bent downwards actually due to all the humidity. And so it's just seeing a little bit more because sometimes it's seeing the ground actually. So that's why the radar just kind of goes whoosh with all of the lighter green here in the last couple of minutes. That's all that was doing. So any of, trying to pull up a pointer, any of this, that's not rain. That's just the radar at night. And then if you've ever wondered, all of this stuff down here, like that, this, it's not rain. It's wind turbines. So the radar is actually kind of bouncing off of those. If you've ever driven out here by Portland, out by GP, you can see all of them. Or even if you're coming in on 37, you pass through by a whole field of them out here. All right, so I believe I just heard it go off, the warning go off. I'm going to read it again. So I want to see if they've updated anything. So I'm just cross-referencing it against the previous warning because I don't think they updated anything. Okay, well they updated the hail size. Well, that was from, okay. Okay, so the last severe thunderstorm warning was just before 8:30, and that was for 1.25 inch hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds. The newest warning, same thing. So it has not changed, but I'm gonna play through the radar here and make sure it's still moving on that southeast track, because it does seem like the bulk of the storm is still within this polygon, which is a little harder to see now because of all of this lighter green from the radar. So if I can take that away without losing the integrity of the radar image, because I want y'all to still be able to see this, the lighter rain, but it just makes it a little easier to see that warning. Dismiss. It's giving me an error if I'm making a weird face. I'm trying to figure out what it's doing. We are just going to, oh my goodness. So it doesn't want me to do anything right now. It's not letting me click. What? Oh, that's fun. I'm just scrolling through all my graphics right now, if you're wondering what I'm doing, using my keyboard, because my mouse does not want to work. Huh. I'm gonna try to just bring up a normal temperature map or something. See if that works. Okay. So maybe that'll reset things. We are troubleshooting on the fly here, y'all. Welcome to live television. Okay. Is this working now? Fingers crossed. Yes. I got it to work. Okay. So if you were curious, it just kept, the computer was yelling at me that I couldn't click on anything. It was saying something didn't exist. And I'm like, no, it's right there. Okay. So, what I was trying to do is make the severe warning a little bit easier to see. It kind of blends in with the roads right now, but it is not worth that headache of the computer crashing on me again. So I'm going to double check that this is still moving southeast, 25 miles per hour, and then we'll do another storm track on it here in just a sec. Okay. And then I'm just looking at the radar, visually confirming that it's still moving in that direction. I'll have to watch it a little bit longer because what I'm seeing right now, so you can tell earlier it was, and I'm physically dragging this really slow, how it was going pretty straight southeast, and you have all of this, pretty much the strongest part of the thunderstorm within this orange polygon here, that severe warning. But now the last couple of scans, instead of moving this direction, this direction, just following basically the center of this orange box here, it's going a little more this way. And that's what I was talking about earlier with when somebody asked if it was going to come to Refugio. I said, you know, well, it could if it decides to move more easterly. So we'll see if that trend keeps up or if it's just this part of the storm kind of weakening and dropping off of the radar, but it's still moving that way. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Okay. I'm gonna pop in the chat and see if there's any more questions because I haven't looked at that in a while. I apologize. It's not letting me go very far back, unfortunately. Let me see if I switch accounts, if it'll let me go further back in the history. Because somebody had, the last comment that I can see right now is if somebody asked if it was live. And yes, it is live. Okay. It's not letting me see very many comments right now, or any questions. It keeps giving me different comments, so I'm going to do it a couple times and see if it gives me any different questions. Somebody asked about Alice. Somebody asked about Mathis, Cal Allen. Okay. So that's what I'm going to work off of, is people just kind of asking about different communities in the Coastal Bend. So, yeah, I don't know why. Technology, it's a little goofy at times. Okay. So somebody asked about Cal Allen. I don't see it making it all the way down here because it would have to go. So I'm going to pause it. In order for it to get to Cal Allen, this storm would basically have to go kind of like this. And if we watch, it's not moving that direction. Man, I wish the arrow would stay put when I do that. Okay. So it would have to move roughly that way to get to Cal Allen. But watch the actual storm's motion. It's moving more, I'm just kind of drawing a rough line. It's moving more along that top line. So I don't think it's getting to Cal Allen. Somebody asked, I believe, about Mathis to Beeville. And then same thing, somebody else also asked about Alice. The storm would have to be moving this way, and it is moving perpendicular to that, so not going to be a problem for Alice. Somebody asked, I believe they said between Mathis and Beeville. So I was reorienting myself in my brain, if you just watch that in real time. So again, I don't see this being an issue for Mathis. It would have to be moving almost essentially the wrong direction from the warning. I wish I could do something to make that warning more vibrant. If I could outline. That's not it. I'm gonna try and make this like a bright yellow. Hopefully, because I don't want to make it red. That would be bad. Okay, maybe blue will be different enough from all the roads. There we go. Well, anyway, and I'm doing this because it gets washed out whenever the radar moves. And the last time I tried to take all of this light green off, the computer decided to have a fit. So that's roughly where it is. Yeah, so somebody asked about Mathis not heading that way. Somebody asked about Rockport. Somebody asked about Taft or Furio. Okay, a couple people asking about Rockport. Clear this off. I'm texting my producer. She asked earlier if I needed a little bit to talk about this, and I told her no, and I said, I lied, I'll take some time. So she's probably laughing over there now. Yep. Thank you, Sam. Okay, so we've been talking about hail size a little bit. And earlier this had been worn. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't look like it gives me the ability to have this little arrow. So we've been talking about this evening hail in between quarter and ping pong ball. So the reference point that the Weather Service uses for that is $50, which I think ironically is bigger than a dollar coin. Anyway, that would be about 1.25 inches. So we've been talking about hail from that size right in here earlier up to tennis ball sized hail. I can double check. I don't know if we got any verified reports of that size hail. All I'm seeing is 1.25 inch, which is that $50 size hail. So right in here is the only verified size that we've seen so far, but it was warned earlier for up to 2.5 inch size hail. So the current state of the union, if you will, I may have to adjust the camera. Yeah, bear with me. Okay, so there's not really a lot left. That's good. I know we all want rain. We have better chances later this week, by the way. Be sure and check out our forecast post for that, or hang around. 3 News at 10, not too far away. So it doesn't look too bad in terms of the hail. We'll bring over the wind now. And again, almost all of that green has dropped off. There is a little bit, excuse me, of brighter red popping up just to the south of Normanna. Let me double check, because sometimes the radar does really silly stuff and it'll, yeah. So what I was just doing, you saw my brain processing in real time. The storm is oh, it's still blue, okay. I thought my line would be white. The storm is pretty much encompassed in this blue circle right here. Oh no, it went away. I always have to remember, as soon as you click on something else in what we call our palette, it's pre-made stuff, it wipes everything else off that you just did. So think of it as working and then not hitting save. So I have to do it a different way. Okay. So I have to go in and change what I'm looking at over here. So the label at the top is going to be wrong. I'm looking at the velocity now, but because I want to keep that blue circle on here, and then I got to change the color palette itself. Okay, so remember, all of the rain, for the most part right now, is within this blue circle, but then we're seeing the strongest winds out here. So that's interesting. It kind of tells me that maybe some winds are coming behind the storm and feeding into it. Which, if that were the case, you would expect it to be possibly flaring up again. So we'll keep tabs on that. And so, okay, back to people were asking about Refugio and Cal Allen. I think I already answered the Cal Allen. Not going there. Basically anywhere. At this point, I can almost confidently say anywhere. So that is the wrong pointer. Anywhere south of 181, probably not going to hit you. Anywhere south of 37, absolutely not going to hit you. So we are focused pretty much on this area of the coastal bend, and you just saw this brand new warning pop up in real time. And that's why I thought about Refugio again. Somebody had asked, and we talked about this earlier, that the storm initially this evening, it moved kind of easterly up here. You can follow the hail track. And then it went kind of to the southeast through about right here. And then now it's going more east-southeast. So you can see the direction change with that new warning compared to the old one. So the old one is the one to the west right here. This is the old warning. And then now this is the new one. So this new warning is being issued until 9:45, and I'm going to pull up a different box. There we go. So again, still keeping that 1 1/4 inch hail size, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And does it look? So they're back to saying it's moving to the east. I see it keep popping up on my phone. Oh, okay. I get a notification anytime they also cancel a warning, so it sounded weird. So you saw that other one drop off probably. I didn't see it because I heard that. Anyway, I got distracted by the sound. So everything about this is still the same other than the direction. So it's still being warned for the same stuff. It's just moving in a slightly different direction. So we talked about earlier, somebody had asked, is Refugio going to be impacted? And I said, well, if it changes direction again, and that is exactly what we are seeing. So they're still saying it's moving at about 25 miles per hour. So I'm going to go back to the normal radar view because the hail, it covers a much smaller area. You can see like this tiny little pocket of hail, thankfully, especially when we've been dealing with bigger hail over a much bigger area. This little area, that'd be a little bit harder to track out. I can still do it just for the purpose of hail, 25 miles per hour. I want to see which direction it's. So that actually has been moving, at least the hail, a little bit more easterly as opposed to southeast. So we'll kind of go like this. And again, I don't like pulling these out more than an hour in advance, but I'm trying to get Refugio in it. So if it were to follow more of this southeasterly direction along this cone, you could see something maybe in Refugio after about an hour from now, but it does look like it'll be kind of more in this area right through the middle here. But I'm going to do this again just with the actual radar and rain. Zoom in a little bit. That's really nice to see that. You can see how the thunderstorm is just kind of going, just kind of collapsing on itself. And that is because we're losing a lot of the daytime heat. So whenever we've got the sun shining on us, we're feeling it, we're getting toasty. But what that does for the atmosphere is it provides a lot of energy. And once the storms use up what's there and the sun has set, there's nothing replenishing that energy. So while the sun has set for probably an hour now, I think sun sets around 8 o'clock, there's still been all that energy that it's been using up and all the different dynamics of the atmosphere. It's been tapping into all of that stuff. But because the sun has set we're not getting any more energy. It was a finite amount, so it had to run out at some point, and it looks like it's finally doing that. So I think this warning goes until 9:45. I'm gonna double check that. Yes. So I don't want to say, I could have looked at the top left. Way to go, Kristin. I don't want to say for certain this is the last warning they're going to issue, but it could be. I could see this or maybe one more, and then the storm kind of fizzling out totally. So with that, we're going to go 25 miles per hour, kind of right here. Yeah, just making sure that's matching up. I'm not right at the very edge of that yellow, if you can kind of see where my line is right here that I'm wiggling around. I'm a little bit further in because that's the heavier stuff that people would be seeing. So I'm only going to drag this out to 30 minutes. That's when the warning will end, roughly. Kind of in the direction it's moving. And nothing came up. So there's no points of reference. This must be a pretty rural area in southern Goliad County. I'm going to zoom in and see if there's any reference points that if you live here, you know, maybe it's familiar to you. Oh my goodness. That was the wrong zoom tool. So I am just analyzing the radar again. Believe it or not, even though we work in TV, a lot of our job is done in silence. So we just sit and look at radars and models. So what I'm watching again is the direction of this. And you can see how it kind of came in. I'm going to draw it as it moves. It kind of came in, and then now it's going like that. It's still blue. I need this to be white so y'all can see it. Make it a little thicker. There we go. Okay. So we watched the storm come in, and now it's doing that. So see how it kind of follows that white line I just drew, that motion? So it is now moving that way. That was a horrible arrow. There. And most of the storm actually right now looks to be in Goliad County. Of course, there's still a little bit in B County on 59. I'm going to see where the bulk of the hail is. Wow, some bulk of hail. It is one teeny tiny little piece. So I'm taking the warning off again. I don't want all of my hard work going down the drain. So 0.3 inch hail. Where does that fall on our little chart? Let's find out. So 0.3 inch hail is going to be somewhere between a pea and a marble. That's a lot better news than the tennis ball size hail we were getting warned for earlier. I'm going to go back to the hail tracker. I actually have to move it now. It's really cool to watch this, the loop, because I can do the same thing I just did earlier, kind of track the storm out. I'm going to draw that line with it, just kind of following it. It's not exact, but you get the idea. So you can see how it was moving mostly to the east at first, and then it dove to the southeast once it got to essentially the Live Oak County line, and then whoop, over into Goliad County now. So we're gonna watch this and see it through. It is possible that they drop the severe warning, and they may have. No, they didn't. I was just clicking on the wrong radar palette I have saved that didn't have warnings in it. But I do stand by that. It is possible that they do cancel this early because this warning goes out until 9:45, and I'm not seeing a lot of hail with it anymore. Let's check out the winds. Whole lot of nothing. So I'm going to pause it. And we're going to Inspector Gadget, as I call it. Okay. So again, a lot of this that I'm clicking on out here is wind that is not within the storm. I'm trying to click on this really bright one. I probably look really weird right now, like at this angle, and I apologize. So, okay, 62 mile per hour. I doubt that, but I'm just, don't mind that. I'm just marking it because I want to see what's there. Nothing. So, this area right here is where I was seeing the strongest winds, and there's nothing there. So, could it still be windy there? Yes, but that's also a pretty decent ways above the ground at that point. Okay. I guess I have every single radar in Texas turned on right now. So, by the way, there is a lot of severe weather up towards the DFW metro and rolling into BCS, it's Bryan College Station. So I am going to turn all of that off. I'm gonna go right back to our radar. So it does look like there's still a little bit of lightning as well with this, nowhere near the amount that we saw earlier. So I can actually pause it. Like, look at that storm, y'all. Like, that's how it looked almost 2 hours ago. It had rotation, it had a lot of lightning, it had tennis ball sized hail, super heavy rain. And since then, it has, for lack of a better phrase, piddled out. That is a childhood phrase I grew up hearing. So yeah, there's not a lot still going on with it. I'm gonna check in the chat and see if anybody's asking them about keeping it, canceling it. No? Maybe I'll ask. I'm gonna ask. Okay, so they just adjusted the warning. So it's kind of hard to see because the roads are the same color, and I apologize. But the warning went from kind of it's hard when all your options look the exact same. So the warning went from kind of going that way to now being right here. So that is where our warning is. I'm gonna delete that. So I just outlined it in white so it's a little easier to see, because as we've been talking about, it's easier to see that way before all of the radar was acting wonky. And it doesn't move. Okay. I was trying to move it, but you could see that it's moving more easterly. This newest warning does reflect that. And I just heard my chat go off. So they're only warning this now, severe wise, for wind. So the hail they're saying is 0.75 inches, which I want to say on our little chart is maybe penny size hail. And I'm sorry, I have to keep playing this whole graphic through. Okay, so it says that's dime size, 0.75. I keep clicking on the wrong arrow. So it says it's 0.75 inches dime size, which, funny enough, if you were watching our 6 o'clock show, there was that truck that spilt, I think it was $800,000 worth of dimes. Yikes. So we have some dime size hail, a couple dimes being dropped in our own area. But you can see a lot of that really going to nothing. A whole lot of nothing. That's good to see. You can even watch on here, like we were talking about earlier, kind of the pulsing action of the thunderstorm, how it would get really strong, it would weaken, it would get strong, it would weaken. Thunderstorms have a tendency to do that, especially during the daylight hours. You know, sometimes we call them, I think cyclic is the right word, cyclical. They both sound right. But where they just kind of cycle and they just keep regenerating their strength. But this does not appear to be doing that because it's running out of energy. Against my better judgment, I'm going to try to knock down all the green on the radar again. Hopefully it doesn't scream at me again. Oh, yes. Okay. I'm trying to make sure I don't take too much off, but I don't think I am. Okay, now it's a lot easier to see. Jeez. Okay, yeah, so I could see them canceling this by 9:30. I'm gonna take a peek at the winds. Again, I'm not totally sure. Why do you keep freezing? I'm not totally sure what exactly they're seeing when they're saying 60-mile-per-hour winds. Around it? Possibly. Within it? No. Because the storm itself is right there. Like if I switch back to just the normal radar, that's where it's going to be. Okay, yeah. Delete. There we go. So I'm going to pause that, and I can circle it even more precisely. Y'all, I keep clicking on the wrong, and they just dropped it. So, like I said, they were going to drop that by 9:30, and I'm going to double check. Out of curiosity, I am going to look at it from a different radar. So now you can see the two different ones working. There's a little blip in southern Morton County. I'm going to turn off the Corpus radar. So it doesn't look that much different. You will notice that, so this is the Corpus Christi radar, and then the San Antonio radar. And it puts it a little bit more to the east. That's because the San Antonio radar is seeing a little bit further up into the atmosphere than the Corpus Christi radar. And so thunderstorms, this is really cool if you've never heard this before, they're shaped like an anvil. I think that's the thing that a blacksmith hammers out their swords and stuff on. So we're gonna have a little artistic adventure over here, and I apologize in advance. So an anvil is roughly kind of, this is so bad, kind of shaped like this. And this is the top up here. Oh, that is so bad. Anyway, this is the same way that a thunderstorm is shaped. We'll reference the anvil of the storm, and that is the top of the storm. And the really cool thing about that is the anvil always points in the direction that the wind is blowing towards. So in this wonderful artistic example, the wind would be blowing that way. And so in our scenario down here in Goliad County, hopefully this all goes away when I move. Oh, thank you. So you can see that it's different. So, oh, I think I actually can turn this like three-dimensional. Hang on. I just got really excited. Can I do that? I can. Oh, this is so awesome. Well, that sucks. Let me pull the other radar up. Okay, so this is both of them. So that is what's showing up from the, I don't like that slice. I want to do it a different way. Oh, you can't. Okay, this is super cool. I didn't know you could spin it like that. Y'all are learning with me right here. So if you've been watching us, the severe thunderstorm warning is gone. Oh, but I can't. Can I? I'm trying to figure out if I can move the camera so I can kind of like swoop under, but I don't think I can. But because I don't like how that looks. Because it would be pointing in the wrong direction. Maybe if I move it that way. Anyway, it's going in the incorrect direction, which is what I'm trying to figure out. Maybe that works. right there. Anyway, you can kind of envision the anvil shape, if I get it right back in this spot, how it looks to be kind of pointing up in this direction, even though it should be going that way. This is a new tool to me, so I'm not totally sure why it's looking like that. That looks very weird. There we go. So, not a lot left on the radar. I'm gonna double check in the chat and in the comments one last time, and then there's nothing left for me to talk about after that, y'all. We made it through this little storm. Yeah, so they canceled the warning. I'm gonna double check in the chat. Let's see. All right. Yeah, I don't really see anything else going on. I'm gonna, yep, that looks like it's it. All right, so that is really, really similar to, I think I should be able to pull up the model we showed earlier today. If it'll load. Okay, so this is what we showed earlier today. And I think it did pretty well. It does seem like this had a little bit more coming down towards I-37, and most of it stuck up towards, I have to pause it to get to here. A lot of it stayed up in, clicking on the wrong thing, up in this area. But you can see it brought it a little bit further down. So, back to the radar one last time, and we are gonna let you go. Plus, we have to get ready for the news. Yeah, so there's still a tiny little blip on the radar, but overall, severe threat is gone. Severe warning is canceled. There's not even lightning really popping up anymore. So that about does it. I'm going to end this live stream. I hope you'll have a great rest of your evening.